Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I am super excited about today's webinar because this webinar has been in the making for about a year at least. Katelyn and I have been looking to work with each other for a very long time, and it's finally happening today. So thank you so much, Katelyn, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I'll just do a quick introduction for those of you who do not know Katelyn, which is probably going to be a very small percentage of the population here. But Katelyn is a marketer by trade and 4 times founder. Katelyn's specialty is helping marketers and product teams figure out what triggers customers to buy so they can market smarter. Katelyn has been called an influential entrepreneur by Forbes and named as one of the top 20 Wonder Women of SaaS marketing and growth. Welcome, Katelyn.
Thank you so much for having me. And I apologize to anybody who's listening about my voice. I'm losing my voice a little bit. So if you hear it crack throughout this presentation, I'm so sorry. So I'm going to do a screen share and walk through my presentation today. So this is going to be an action-packed hour. You're going to learn how to find your best customers online. And of course, given the state of the world right now for many business owners, many of us probably used to be accustomed to closing deals in person or selling our products in the real world. And now more than ever, it's important that we're able to access new customers online. So it's an important topic. We're going to move quickly. We've got lots to cover, but don't worry about taking a ton of notes. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, I'll share it with Pradeep and he can send it out to attendees today. And as we're getting started, if anybody would like to share what's motivated them to join today, I always love to hear why people are here. So you can pop your answer in the chat, or I believe, Pradeep, is it the chat or the comment section?
Yeah, so it'll be the comment section because it's being streamed live on YouTube. So
Okay.
attendees who are viewing right now, they'll be able to use the comment section on YouTube.
Sounds good. Perfect. All right. So, what's going on in your world that motivated you to attend today's workshop? When I've done this presentation in the past, a lot of the answers have been around, we have to move our business online. We used to sell more so in person. Now we need to figure out how to find people online. Oftentimes, new founders of companies are just getting started. They maybe have their first product and they're ready to put it out into the world, and they put it out and nobody really pays attention. And so oftentimes, the motivation is just we want to drive more sales. We want to re-engage with customers in a new way. So if that sounds like you're in the right place. This workshop is right for you if you've been at it for a while. Alex says he wants to find his target audience and better conversion. Awesome, Alex. Yeah, this workshop is good for you if you've been at it for a while, but you're not really getting the results that you want yet. It's good for you if you feel totally overwhelmed by having to do all the marketing things and you want to figure out where to really focus your time. And it's great for you if you're brand new to the online marketing world and you don't even know where to start. So if you are a marketing expert, this is probably going to be content you've seen before. If you are just getting started, you're a product founder, or your marketing is not your background, this is going to be a great fit for you. Now I'm just noticing it doesn't look as though my slides are changing. So we'll see. I'll go on to the next one and see if it catches up with me. But sometimes there seems to be a bit of a lag. So I'm not seeing the slide change. Maybe I'll try stop sharing for a second. I'll come back. Try again.
Okay. It's on the what's going on. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Now it's changing. All right. So a little bit about me. Pradeep gave me a beautiful introduction, but I am a growth strategist and trainer. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, almost 11 now, actually. I've built and sold companies in the marketing, tech, and hospitality sectors. I've had the pleasure of working with cool clients in my marketing background like Target and Holiday Inn, but also lots of high growth startups or small businesses over the years. I've been named as an influential entrepreneur by Forbes, and this was actually a picture of the day that my co-founder and I at my last tech company, when they said we were building the next LinkedIn. That was a very exciting day. And I've been featured in magazines and media like Inc. and Huffington Post and USA Today. And so like all of that stuff sounds really exciting and fancy, and that's the highlight reel. But behind the scenes, things look quite different. My career and my life as an entrepreneur went more like this. And so many of you that have been in this world for a while, you might feel like you're in the red zone now. You're trying to get into the yellow zone. My goal today is to pass on some of my hard-earned wisdom to you so we can get you into the yellow zone. And here is the first nugget. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So I know that the people that are watching are smart and talented. And if you were given the time, you could figure out every marketing channel. You could get good at all of the different social media platforms. But guess what? You are probably a busy entrepreneur, and chances are that time is your most precious resource. So you do not have time to learn how to do all the things. And what that means is you need to get focused. And you can't try to be everywhere online, otherwise you're just going to burn out. This is a mistake that I see people make, especially people that are just getting started in online marketing. They think that they need to post on every channel, have a profile everywhere, be active everywhere. You really don't. You need to figure out where to focus so that you can get the most traction with your audience. So the agenda for today, we're going to start by talking about how to identify your dream customers. Because of course, if you don't know who you're going after as customers, how can you get them to pay attention to you? We're going to talk about understanding your customer's buying journey. We're going to get into how to locate different customer hangouts. And we're going to talk about choosing different marketing channels to prioritize. So I want to make this workshop really actionable for you. So I'm going to do that by sharing like an actual example of something that we did with my husband's business. So this is how we did the same process for my husband's business. So this is my husband, Jason. He is a chef by trade, but had been working in the oil and gas sector for a while. And when the pandemic happened last year, he lost his job, and there were no contracts opening up in oil and gas. You couldn't travel. Luckily for him, he'd always been wanting to return to the world of food. So this was his opportunity to get back to doing something in food. Now, of course, at the time, most of the restaurants, I think all of the restaurants were closed down to in-house dining. It wasn't really the perfect time to open a restaurant. So we figured, what else can we do? How can we start delivering on Jason's dream of being back in the world of food when we can't open a restaurant, which is where most of his experience was. So we ended up launching Char Boys. And Char Boys, at the time, we were calling it ready to grill barbecue meats that were delivered straight to your door. So we launched Char Boys back in June of 2020, and it has been a wild ride. So the techniques that I'm about to share with you about how to choose which marketing channels to prioritize, these were ones that helped us in growing our own audience. So across the primary channels that we're on, we've been able to effectively grow our audience to, I don't think this slide's up to date. That's from our 4-month mark. I think that's more about the 7,000 number now across our 3 primary channels. We were able to identify amazing partners that we could collaborate with, ways to help us get the word out about Char Boys. We got tons of media coverage. So lots of basically every local media outlet has covered the Char Boys story. There was one we were waiting on that we couldn't get to cover us. And then Jason actually had to call with them on Monday. So now we've been everywhere. And we were able to sell out our product in the first 48 hours of launching it. And again, this was all by really understanding who our audience was and figuring out how to get in front of them. So let's talk about how to identify and find your dream customers online. So this probably should be obvious, but if you want to find your dream customers online, you have to know who your dream customers are. How can you find something if you don't know what you're looking for? Now, I don't mean that you literally need to know their names or the specific companies that they work for, although that can be helpful if that's something that you can do. But at minimum, you need to know what kind of people your business is really well positioned to serve. So the questions you want to be asking yourself about your audience: what do they look like? So this might be like not their like aesthetics or like all of their demographics, but like, how do they see the world? What do they look like in the world? What problems are they trying to solve? What triggered them to look for a new solution in the first place? How do they go about looking for new solutions? What progress are they trying to make that might make them consider a solution like yours? What objections might stop them from buying? And what do they hope the future is going to look like? So these are some of the questions that you want to figure out the answers to as you're identifying who your best customers are. So identifying and answering these questions, it's going to help you to zero in on a particular type of people or group of people that your business is uniquely well positioned to serve. And in the marketing world, we call this your target audience or your ideal customer segment. So let's look at some examples. If you are Lululemon, then you might say that your target customer segment are health-conscious yogis and fitness enthusiasts. Now, of course, with the pandemic, we're all working from home in yoga pants, so their market is probably really expanded. If you are working over at the team at FreshBooks, which is a cloud-based accounting software, when they were just getting started, they were really super focused on small freelance businesses and small digital agencies. That's who they were going after in the beginning. And with Charboys, we got focused on food-curious suburban parents in Nova Scotia. That's the audience that we're going after. And we call them food-curious because we've gone out and we've learned a lot about them. Now, these high-level descriptions, this is really just a starting place for you. To be really successful with your marketing, you're going to have to get way deeper than this. So this is a snapshot of one of our customer personas at Charboys. As you can see, it includes all sorts of information. So getting clear on who your customers are, that's a critical first step to any marketing plan. And the biggest mistake that I see businesses making is that they really don't understand the audience that they aim to sell to. And this is the problem, because you could have the absolute greatest product on earth, but if you are trying to sell it to the wrong people, you're never going to hit your sales goals. And if you are reading this, you're thinking, that sounds like me. You are definitely not alone. So I put out a survey, this is a couple of years ago now, and I asked people on Twitter, and I said, if you are a freelance marketer or copywriter, how often when you first start working with a new client, do they need help zeroing in on their right fit customer segment? And as you can see, this is a pretty common problem. So 66% of people said almost every time, and 22% said more often than not. So that means 88%, this is an issue that freelancers and copywriters are running into. And this is really frustrating for business owners, because by the time you often are ready to hire a freelancer to help you grow your business or a copywriter, you just want them to start driving results for you right away. But if you don't know who your customers are yet and you bring them on, they're going to have to do that foundational work first. And oftentimes that can eat up a lot of time and budget that you wish you weren't spending. So it's really great if you can go off and do this beforehand. And the important thing is you can't just pick an audience at random. You really need to understand why they would pick you back. And my favorite method for doing that is understanding that through one-on-one customer interviews. Now, this part can be tricky. I've got a resource that I can share with you called by Clarity called Cheat Sheets, where I explain how to use one-on-one interviews to get inside your customers' heads and figure out what triggers them to buy. Now, I don't have time to dive deep into this in today's 1-hour class, but I will give you a quick overview of how we did it at Charboy so you can have a sense of where to start. And if you're ready to go deeper, then I would recommend checking out the cheat sheets, which are available on my website. All right, so again, at Charboys, we are a food box company, or so we thought in the beginning. And I'll talk a little bit about our journey and how we've evolved. And we deliver ready-to-grill barbecue to our customers' doorstep. So at the time, we were thinking we were kind of competing against companies like Good Food or HelloFresh, but we were specifically stuck for the barbecue. Now, we weren't exactly sure who our customers would be when we were starting out, but we had a hunch who they might be. So we thought we might be going after these 3 customer segments. So we thought maybe we're going after people who really care about eating local, the loyal farmers market buyers. Or maybe we're going after convenience buyers, people who already had a food box subscription. Or maybe we're going after the hardcore barbecue lovers. So we thought maybe it's one of these 3 segments. So what did we do? Well, we thought, who do we know who identifies in one of these segments? And we went off and we had customer discovery calls with them. We wanted to understand how they shopped, how they thought about food and what mattered to them, and how things had changed in light of COVID. So we did about 12 customer discovery calls. And after making a few of those calls, we started to see some really interesting patterns. So firstly, we learned that people really liked their food box subscriptions, but they hated how much waste there was. This was actually really reassuring to us because we were thinking, oh, if we want to be taken seriously in this space, we need to have all this beautiful branded packaging like these other players. Turns out people didn't like that. They would much prefer that you deliver their food in a brown bag that can easily be recycled, that doesn't have a lot of plastic. So that was a good insight for us. We learned that people loved their boxes because they didn't have to think about what they would have to make for dinner. So this idea of like taking that off of their mind was something that made them really love the other food subscriptions they were using. We learned that in many households, barbecue wasn't just dinner. It was a really fun experience that they could share with their family and friends. And we learned that it was a hobby for barbecuers. They would spend time learning about different barbecue techniques, hours and hours slow cooking meats, trying new recipes. We learned that it was a popular social activity among parents. Now, I'm 7 months pregnant now, but at the time we did not have a family, so we didn't really know how important barbecue was for many parents, especially people living in suburban communities or rural areas. Because in these areas, it wasn't so easy to just pop out to a restaurant and have dinner with friends. You'd have to get a babysitter, a cab, all of these different things. And so barbecuing was a great social activity. You invite the neighbors over and you can walk over and have a barbecue. And we learned that buying local was important to our audience, but it was something that they struggled to do consistently. So all of this gave us a lot of insight that we could leverage as we looked at how we were going to launch this product. And that's where we really kind of found our focus on food conscious suburban parents. So these are people who had aspiration. They wanted to buy more local. They wanted to try healthier, well, not necessarily healthier from a calorie perspective, but more locally grown products. But they were struggling to do that because there was the convenience factor of just going to the grocery store and grabbing what they wanted. And because we knew who our audience was, we were able to pick creative that really spoke to that audience. So here's an example of the first image that we had on our website when we launched our first box. You can see very clearly who we're going after when we use imagery like this. We were showcasing barbecue isn't just a meal. Again, it's an experience you share with family. Now, if you don't know who your audience is yet and you, like us, kind of have a hunch around some different customer segments, it might be. We got a little tool that can help you. It's called my customer ranking calculator. And essentially you can go in and you can evaluate different audiences based on some key criteria to help you kind of narrow in and focus on who you should go after. So that's available on my website and you can grab it at this URL. Okay, so next up, let's talk about understanding your customer's buying journey. As marketers, what do we care about? We care about moving prospective customers through the buying journey faster. We want to take them from not knowing that we exist straight through to gaining their trust and making their first purchase and becoming loyal advocates of our brand. And interestingly, buying journeys tend to follow a similar path. So most buying journeys start and look like this. It starts with a trigger event, a moment where your customer realizes that they're interested in making a change. At that point, after being triggered, they're going to start passively looking for a solution to their problem. And so they might not be putting real energy into searching for a solution yet. They might not be doing Google searches or asking friends, but they're starting to notice things that might solve the problem. Oftentimes, there's some type of catalyst that pushes them into actively searching for a solution to the problem. At this stage, they might be trying different things, some things that might be competitors of yours, other things that look completely different than you, but trying to figure out how to solve their problem. There's then typically a catalyst that pushes them into decision mode around, okay, I'm going to narrow down my options. I'm going to decide between this and that. They'll then buy the thing, they'll use the thing, and they'll ask themselves, am I happy? Did this get my job done? Did it satisfy my needs the way I'd hoped that it would? And if it did, then great. They're going to tell people about it. They're going to keep paying for it. They're going to be satisfied. And if it didn't, then in their mind, they might have already fired that thing and they're going to start looking for something new to hire. So this is what a typical buying journey looks like. And understanding your customer's buying journey can help you to figure out how to get in front of people sooner in less crowded and costly channels. Okay, so let's think about where your customers might be in the buying journey. Do they already have a problem and they are actively searching for a solution like yours? If they're actively searching for a solution like yours, then you want to get in front of them where they're already looking for solutions, and you want to sell them on why you're the best option. But if they don't realize they have a problem yet, or they might know they have a problem, but they've never considered a solution like yours specifically. If that's the case, then you need to educate them on why they should solve the problem. Or you need to reframe your offer to fit into a problem that they already know that they have. So getting clear with the problems your customers are dealing with, it's going to help you to figure out how to get your solution in front of them sooner. Now, if you're doing interviews, the goal of your interview is to understand the customer buying journey. Like I said, we did a number of interviews with Charboys, and we learned some really interesting things that informed how we launched our first product. So one thing we learned was that people were going to the grocery store less frequently. Remember, this was in the middle of quarantine. People were very afraid. We didn't have a lot of information yet on how deadly this virus was going to be. And so going to the grocery store seemed like a highly risky activity. People wanted to get more food delivered. It felt safer that way. We also learned that they were cooking more at home as a way to relieve stress, and oftentimes were cooking together as a family more than they had before. And they were eating more meals as a family. Instead of having to go after school and run to all the different school activities and grabbing stuff in the car, they were actually sitting down at the table more as a family, and that was something that they were actually really enjoying. It was a weird benefit of COVID. But guess what? They were not looking for a barbecue meal kit. So we thought that a concept like Charboys might work, but we knew that people weren't actively looking for it. So this is the results from a search that we did to see how many people are searching for a solution like Charboys. We did a little bit of keyword research, which I'm going to talk about shortly. But we saw that only about 20 people in all of Canada were searching for barbecue meal kits each month. So not a lot of people actively searching for this solution, while there were people that had a problem. And what was the problem that we learned that they had? Well, we learned that quarantine had made people become really shack-wacky. They were sitting at home, they were bored, the kids were bored, they were fighting more than usual, everyone was stressed out, and they were looking for something fun to do to pass the time. So that was actually a really powerful insight, because while they weren't looking for a solution like ours, a barbecue meal kit, they were looking for something to do to pass the time. So that could be the trigger that we paid attention to, was boredom. And so this insight helped us to launch a really fun campaign when we first came out with our product. So rather than trying to just sell people barbecue boxes, we said, we need to do something more than that. We need to create a fun experience, something that customers can enjoy with their family in their homes, but also together with others online, so they felt more connected to people. And so we partnered with 2 local brands, and we launched what we coined as Halifax's Big Barbecue Bash. So it was a virtual event with real barbecue and beer delivered straight to our customers' doorsteps. So we planned some fun online events. We had a live beer tasting with the beer provider, and we had cooking classes so that people could cook alongside us with their meals. So positioning Charboys as an event as opposed to a meal kit, it helped us to meet people where they were in their buying journey. And partnering with established brands that our customers recognized when we were a new brand, that helped to lend credibility to us as a new business. So you can see, understanding where customers are in their buying journey can really help you to figure out which marketing channels you might want to prioritize and how to craft a message or offer that's going to be compelling for them. Now, if people are actively searching for a solution like yours, then you want to prioritize being in places where you can be discovered. It's better to get in front of them when they're actively looking than to try to have to find them. But again, oftentimes people aren't actively looking for a solution like yours, and that means you must find them. So let's talk about how to do that. So how do you find your customer hangouts? In marketing, we call these their channels. So simply put, a marketing channel is a place where you can get your product or service in front of your target customer. So Facebook is a marketing channel. A blog is a marketing channel. An email newsletter is a marketing channel. Google is a marketing channel. And review sites like TripAdvisor or Yelp or G2 Crowd, those are all considered channels as well. So this is an overview of some of the popular types of channels. And as you can see, some of the obvious ones are here that you might expect, like Facebook and Twitter. but there are ones that you might not be thinking of as channels, like PR or social referrals. Now, social referrals is just a fancy way of saying word of mouth, but word of mouth is actually one of the most effective and powerful marketing channels. In fact, 77% of consumers say that they were influenced by hearing about a product from a friend. So word of mouth, very powerful marketing channel. So you might look at this and go, oh my goodness, this feels very overwhelming. Where should I focus? But you do not need to panic. In the beginning, especially when you're just getting started, you don't need to be in all the places I said. You really just need to nail one, maybe two channels to start gaining momentum. So that sounds great, but which channels should you prioritize? Where should you be? Well, it's time to roll up your sleeves and do a little bit of research. And there are several methods that you can do. So of course, you can just ask your customers. Again, if you have a sense of who your customers are, ask them, where are you hanging out online? So you can do this as a survey, or again, using one-on-one interviews, you're going to get some more robust and deeper answers. So you can do competitor research. So who else is serving your audience? Who are your direct competitors? And what channels are they spending time on? Maybe they are really active on Instagram, but basically silent on Twitter. That might give you a clue as to what type of content their audience really likes to engage with. And you can do a quick Google search. So of course, Google can be your best friend when you're doing research if you know how to do it. So with Charboys, we knew that our audience were people who were interested in food, who were living in Nova Scotia. So I Googled food bloggers in Nova Scotia. And this search revealed a short list of popular bloggers on the Coast website, which is a local lifestyle website. And from there, I could go and look at these bloggers. I could explore their websites. I could see what social media channels they were spending time on. This all gave me a sense of where the food lovers were spending their time and who they might be following. And another great tool you can use is a tool called SparkToro. And I'm actually going to give you a walkthrough for how SparkToro works. But SparkToro is essentially, it's like doing a Google search, but instead of searching the internet, you're basically searching to see where your audience might be hanging out, what they're reading, what podcasts they're listening to, what social channels they're on. So SparkToro, they describe themselves as instantly discover what your audience reads, watches, listens to, or follows. So that is a pretty good description of what we're trying to achieve here, right? So I'm going to open up SparkToro. I'm going to actually show you how to do a search. So you can do 10 searches in SparkToro for free every month. And before you start doing searches in SparkToro, I recommend you use some of the other methods first so that you can make sure that when you're using your searches in SparkToro that they're the most effective. But let's see. So if I wanted to go through and say, I'm interested in people who frequently talk about barbecue, and I'm going to search that. Now, remember, my audience, and we were only selling in Nova Scotia, so I don't care about people who talk about barbecue everywhere in the world. I really only care about Nova Scotia. So I'm going to add that as part of my query as well. And I apologize if things are a little slow. My internet connection is not as speedy as I would like. So we've got things going here. I don't know why it's taking this long. Let's look at I've done this query recently, so I can show you that. Okay, here we go. I wonder if it's my connection or if it's actually that SparkToro is slow. Because typically it comes up quite a bit quicker, but I will give it a minute or so to see if it will work. But the neat thing about SparkToro, I'll just kind of scroll through so you can get a sense of what type of information can come back. So they'll show you things like, what are the top words that people who talk about barbecue a lot and live in Nova Scotia, what are they using in their profile? What hashtags are they using? What are some of the social accounts that they follow? So that can give you a sense as to where what media they're interested in, who you might want to collaborate with. What podcasts are they listening to? What YouTube channels are they subscribing to? What press accounts are they reading? So all of this really interesting. I'll click through and see if any of this comes up any sooner. Here, typically, error with your query. Yeah, I think that there might be an issue with SparkToro right now. So let me try another query. So because I had done my research up front, I knew that one of the brands that my audience was probably following is called Halifax Noise. It's a local, kind of like local news and lifestyle organization. So let's search Halifax Noise and see if that one comes up. Yeah, there might be an issue with SparkToro right now. But what I will say is that what you can learn from using a tool like SparkToro is all of the websites that your customers are visiting, all of the social profiles that they're following, and that can be really, really handy. Oh, here we go. Some stuff starting to come. All right, so you're seeing now of the people who follow Halifax Noise, which again is a local lifestyle business. What other social accounts are they engaging with? Well, these are some of the popular publications in our area. If I didn't know this area, let's say that I'm trying to market to Halifax, but I'm not familiar with Halifax. Now I know all of the hit lists of where my audience might be getting some of their news. Now, we, of course, use this to do press outreach, and we've actually been highlighted in all of these different media accounts. Who are they following? Let's take a look at some of their social followings. So these are all different media companies, again, ones that we actively pursued because we knew it was a good way to get in front of our audience. With SparkToro, they'll only show you a slice for free of what of the results. And if you want to see a deeper dive, then you do need to pay, but it's quite affordable. So I'll show you another example. So let's say that you're like me and you're thinking about starting a podcast. So months ago, I was thinking about starting a podcast. So I'm going to search my own Twitter profile. And what's great about something like SparkToro is I can see, okay, based on the people who follow me on Twitter, who else are those people following? And I use this search to actually figure out who I would invite to be guests on my podcast. Because I knew that if somebody was already following me, then these are probably other people that they would be interested in and that there would be good audience alignment. So I went through and I ended up having Rand Fishkin on the podcast. April Dunford has been on the podcast. Hinton Shaw has been on the podcast. So again, like going through and seeing who else my audience is interested in was a really good way for me to figure out if I'm going to host a podcast, who do I want to get on the podcast? And if I'm going to try to get on other people's channels, like maybe some of these people host podcasts, maybe they have webinars, I'm going to try to pitch myself to these people because their audience is aligned with mine. So again, really neat things you can do with SparkToro. So let's go to the next tool that I want to share with you. So there is another awesome tool called Facebook Audience Insights. Now, if you have an audience of your own on Facebook already, or let's say you have a really big competitor who has a big following on Facebook, you can learn a lot from this tool. But even if you don't have an audience and you know something about your audience, you have some clues as to who your audience is, you can get lots of neat stuff. So let's go in here again. Now you do need to have a Facebook page to be able to access this information. So if you don't have a Facebook page, you need to set one up first. But let's say, again, our Facebook page following isn't huge for Charboys. It's about, I think we're about 2,000 people now. So instead of looking at our Facebook audience, I'm going to look at people who are in, who I know would kind of like fall into our audience. So I'm going to look at people who are based in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There we go. And again, we were going after those food conscious parents. I'm going to say 25 to, let's just say 60. And I'm going to put in terms of interest, maybe they're interested in barbecue. Maybe they care about craft beer. We learned that was something that our audience was interested in. Maybe they are, what would be some other things that might align with this audience? Maybe we'll put in that they're into local food because, again, a big value proposition of ours is that everything is local. So as you start to do your search, you can see of all the people in Nova Scotia who fall under this audience, what are some things that we know about them? Well, we can see the ages of them, so 25 to 34. We can see, they tend to skew to being married or engaged more so than the average Facebook user. That makes sense. You can see that a lot of them went to college, grad school. That stuff's not so useful, but this is where you can find some really neat information. So if you're looking to do collaborations or you want to get in front of people, a really great way of doing that is by identifying other brands that are aligned with you that have the audience you want to get in front of. And so what we did was we came in and we took a search and we could see what are some of the other brands that our audience might be following and how can we leverage that information when it comes to figuring out how to do collaborations with brands that might be a good fit for us. So the Halifax Seaport Farmers Market, we did a big collaboration with a brewery down there called Garrison. So it got us in front of that audience. You could actually pick up your box at Garrison. Very convenient for people who are already going to the market. Halifax Magazine, we were listed in Halifax Magazine. Savici's Meats, we've used their products in our boxes before. So again, this is a really neat way of starting to see what are the other brands or people that my audience might be interested in so that I can use those relationships as an opportunity to get in front of those folks. So again, Facebook audience insights will be the more specific you can be with it, the better. And if you already have a large audience there, great. You can get some very contextual information about your own audience. Or if you have a big competitor and you really want to understand their audience, it can work well for that too. I see a question from Lena asking, do I have a paid version of SparkToro? I don't have a paid version of it, Lena. I don't do a lot of consulting work myself or do a lot of work with other brands. So for me, because we're so locally focused, we knew a lot of the organizations that we needed to go after already. That being said, like if I was trying to target Halifax and I was from another city, I would be like signing up for an account immediately because there'd be so much that I just don't know. So depending on where your audience is and how much you do already know about them, or if you're doing work for clients or let's say you're a freelancer, absolute huge value there. Okay, so now let's say that you're wondering, are my customers actively searching for solutions like mine? If they are, then you would be best served to try to get in front of those people and help them to find you. So if you're wondering, are people actively searching for solutions like mine? You can start off by doing a little bit of keyword research. Keyword research, for anybody who's unfamiliar, it is research that helps you to figure out how to get your website to rank primarily in Google. There's other search engines as well, but Google is definitely the big one. And so there are two ways that you can get your website to rank in Google. You can either buy your way in, meaning that you spend money on ads, or you can earn your way in, meaning that you rank organically. So buying your way in, that's what's known as search engine marketing. And as you can see, for meal kits in Nova Scotia, there's lots of competition for buying your way in. So the first 4 results that show up in Google are ads for other companies. So Chef's Plate, HelloFresh, Good Food, other ones that are paying to get in front of people searching for that term. And if you continue to scroll down to the organic results all the way down, you'll see that these are some of the sites that are ranking organically. So Meal Kits Canada is ranking organically. The Chronicle Herald had an article about meal boxes. We were actually in that article. Saute is another locally focused company. So these companies are showing up because they've optimized their website to rank organically. Now, if you're new to the marketing world, you don't know much about SEO, what I will say is that it is not a quick fix. You can't just turn it on. It's something that you have to invest in over time. SEO experts say that it typically takes 3 to 6 months or even longer to get your website ranking for keywords in Google. And again, if you're not an SEO expert, you should definitely consider bringing one in and helping you out with making sure that you can rank. But that being said, before you say, yeah, I'm going to drop a lot of money, I'm going to hire an SEO person, why don't you go off and do a little research first to see if your audience is even searching for solutions like yours? So with that in mind, I'm going to open another free tool. This one is called Uber Suggest. And there are lots of keyword research tools out there. Some are free, some are paid. There's probably lots of opinions on which one is the best. I'll show you this one because I find that it's very easy for people who are just getting started to do a search. You can do 3 searches in a day for free. So it's a good kind of way to cut your teeth if you're just getting started. So again, let's say that I'm wondering, are people in Nova Scotia looking for barbecue meal kits? Let's just start with barbecue meal kits. I'm going to do that search. Now it's going to ask me to log in. All right, I'll log in. All right, so we're searching for how many people are actually looking for barbecue meal kits. First, we'll look for just that term in general. So barbecue meal kits. Not very many, right? So 10 people every month in all of Canada are searching for barbecue meal kits. And this is interesting. So from an SEO difficulty perspective, this is a number from 1 to 100. This isn't a super easy thing to rank for. So, you know, if it was easy, you'd see somewhere around like 10, 15. 41 is not easy. That means that, you know, we would need to do a little bit of work if we wanted to organically rank for this term. Now, what about if we wanted to pay to rank for this term? Well, that's also not very easy. In fact, it's pretty difficult. So the paid difficulty, meaning the competitiveness for this search term is 91. That's because even though a lot of people aren't actively searching for it, we know that a lot of big, well-funded competitors like HelloFresh and Good Food are willing to pay money to get in front of people who are. How much are they willing to pay? Well, about on average 61 cents for every click. So if we want to decide, should we spend time trying to rank organically right now as an early stage business for terms like barbecue meal kits, may not be a good use of our time. So let's see if we put in something like Nova Scotia. Is that going to change it at all? Probably not. That'll make it worse. So yeah, nobody's looking for it specifically in Nova Scotia. So not worth our time, right? To try to rank organically for barbecue meal kits in Nova Scotia. There's just not enough effort there for it to make sense for us. Let's think about what we learned about our customers. So one of the things that we learned from doing more customer discovery after we had actually had a couple boxes launched and we've been out in the market for a while, we could talk to our own customers. We learned that our customers weren't just using Charboys as a way to have a meal. We really weren't competing with Tuesday's dinner. What we were was more of a fun experience. The other thing that they were doing oftentimes was they were looking at other ways to have fun food experiences with their audience. And one of the other ways that they were doing that was they were hiring a personal chef. Now, we are a bootstrap business. We're just getting started. And so we were bringing in money from our boxes, but Jason was also available for personal chef stuff. So let's see if we want to put in personal chef Halifax. What comes up for that? So a little bit more, we've got 20 people searching for that a month. SEO difficulty, easy. Paid difficulty, easy. The cost per click is a bit higher, but that's probably because there's somebody paying for it, but it's not as competitive as the other terms. So it might be a good way for us to get in front of people that aren't necessarily looking for a barbecue meal kit, but could experience one of the other offerings we have, which is our personal chef stuff. So again, the purpose here is before you go out and you hire an SEO expert, you can do a little bit of research yourself and see, are people actively searching for a solution like mine? Get to know a little bit about how keyword research works, because that's going to help you to oversee an SEO expert a lot more. All right, so moving on. For your business, it might be worth testing search engine ads to see how they perform. and doing that before you invest a lot in SEO. And so you might decide, I'm going to run a few ads, see if we can get some traffic from ads. For us, it didn't really make sense. But for many types of businesses, it could be well worth the investment. So this is my mom's business. She runs a little tour company in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. And for her business, investing some money in ads probably would make sense. So you can see here that the time that I did this search, there were a good number of people every month looking for things to do in Lunenburg, which is the town where she operates, 590 people. The the cost to be able to rank for those keywords was zero. There wasn't a lot of competition for those keywords. So lots of people looking for things to do, not a lot of people bidding on those keywords. So from somebody like my mom, running some search engine ads probably is a good idea. All right, so now let's wind things up with saying, okay, you've got a sense of who your customers are. You've done some online research to figure out where those customers might be hanging out. You've identified, are they actively looking for solutions like mine? If so, I'm going to try to get in front of them in channels where they're actively looking. If not, then I'm going to figure out where they are so I can get in front of them that way. Now, how do you decide what to prioritize? Because again, there's still going to be a lot of options here. Well, this is the way that I like to think about it. So the digital marketing mix is, it can kind of be divided sometimes into 3 different categories. So again, there are paid channels. These are ways that you have to pay to get your message in front of customers. That could be pay-per-click ads. It could be paid social media. It could be paying influencers to promote your products. Then there are what we call owned channels. So owned channels are ones that you own. So that could be your website's blog. It could be your email newsletter. So these are ones that you actually have control over, and we call those owned channels. And then there are your earned channels. And earned channels are other ways you can get in front of an audience through channels that you earn. So that could be customer reviews, could be media coverage. It could be having somebody ask you to guest post on their blog. It could be your audience sharing things on social media, or influencers talking about you for free. So you can kind of think of the categories of channels falling into these 3. And as you're deciding where you want to approach, where you want to put your investment, there's some questions you can ask yourself. And it really comes down to what trade-offs are you willing to make. So paid channels, the trade-off from a paid channel is that getting your message out through paid channels is fast, which is great, but it's expensive. So if you don't have a lot of money to spend on marketing, this might not be the right solution for you out of the gate. If you want to focus more on owned channels, there's a trade-off there too. So building an audience on channels that you own, it's going to be lower cost, and it's probably going to drive a lot more long-term value, but it will be more labor intensive. So if time is a big issue for you, you don't have it, then just be aware that going into trying to build on these own channels will take more time. It's going to take more labor from you or from somebody you hire to do it for you. And then there are the most coveted earned channels. So we marketers, we love these earned channels because they're highly persuasive, but they're also unreliable. So we love it when we can get word of mouth from happy customers, or when, maybe a media or publication says that they're going to cover us, or an influencer starts to love using our product. This is all really great, but again, not reliable. You can't generate this on demand. So you have to ask yourself, what trade-offs are you willing to make when you choose your channels? And that can kind of help you to identify where you might want to spend your time. And the other thing that I want to share with you is that you really want to think about if you are going to be spending time in these places, where do you want to spend your time? And this is the other thing to consider. You should be having fun, right? So choosing channels that you actually want to hang out in and you enjoy creating content for, that is important. So consider that in choosing your channels as well. So what do you like to do? What type of content do you like to create, or how do you like to engage with your audience? Because I will tell you that showing up online and marketing your business consistently, it's going to feel like hard work in the beginning, especially if you've never done it before, but you're going to set yourself up for success if you actually enjoy the process. So some questions you can ask yourself are, maybe you're somebody who really enjoys writing. If that's you, then you might look at channels that are more text focused. So maybe that's channels like Twitter or LinkedIn or maybe blogging or a newsletter. If you like writing, those are channels that might be more compelling to you. If you're highly artistic, then maybe you want more artistic channels. So things like Instagram or TikToks, or maybe you want to design video ads or do cool pop-up guerrilla style campaigns. So again, depending on where your interests are. Maybe you're somebody who actually likes teaching and being on camera like me. So maybe for you, that might be you want to be on a podcast, you want to do video tutorials, maybe you want to create how-to guides because you love to teach. And maybe you were just one of those natural people persons and you just want to go and connect with like-minded people and actually have real conversations. That's how you want to market your business. So you might want to spend time on places like, LinkedIn, trying to build your network there, or building a community, say in a Facebook group or on another channel like a LinkedIn group. So again, it all really depends on what's fun for you. So with Charboys, we had learned that our audience they love learning about food. They're trying to up their culinary game, and they really like learning new cooking techniques, and they like trying new recipes. Now, with that insight, we could have said, okay, well, we're going to start a recipe blog, but that didn't really make sense for us because, again, like we're a small team, we're bootstrapped. My husband doesn't love writing. So for him, the idea of sitting down and writing a blog all the time, not the most exciting. Yet he loves preparing food. And we said, okay, well, we like photographing food. He's also a very natural entertainer. He's like an extreme introvert, and he just like is zany and like he likes to make people laugh. So it made sense for us, rather than focusing on blogging or written channels where people could get recipes, for him to do it in a live environment. So for us, what that means is we decided to host a Facebook live show that we do every Friday called Meat School. You can see here my husband doing it shirtless because, again, he loves to entertain. And then we take a lot of our content and we post that content, photos of the food that we're doing, funny memes, that sort of thing. We post those on Facebook and Instagram. We also are really focused on collaborations with aligned brands and on getting media coverage. So those are channels that we've prioritized. I have a PR background, so that's a little bit easier for me. And we are actively growing our email list, and that's been effective for us. And again, depending on what your interests are and where your audience is, this is going to look different for you. The other thing that's coming soon for us is we're going to be working on creating a YouTube channel, but we haven't prioritized that yet because we just don't have the capacity. Like I said, you don't need to be on all the channels. For us, really the big thing that we do is our Facebook Live show and our growing our email list. Those two things are where we spend most of our time. And then we post a lot of content on Facebook and Instagram, just visual fun content. So if you understand who your audience is and you know what type of content you actually enjoy doing, then it's going to be a lot easier to show up consistently. All right, so we're at an hour already. I just want to kind of like wrap things up and leave you with our 3 main takeaways. So takeaways for today: if you want to find your customers online, you have to know who your dream customers are. So this is the starting place for any marketing strategy. And if you don't have those answers, you need to do that first. And you often only need to really nail 1 or 2 channels in the beginning to start gaining momentum. So you don't need to do it all. Try to figure out where you want to spend your time and start putting the time in there and trying to build traction. And it is much easier to show up consistently and get results when you are having fun. So it can feel like hard work, but if you choose the channels where you have the most joy, then you're going to show up and do the work. And that's it. So thank you everyone for attending today. I'd love to hear in the comments what you thought about today's class. And we can do a Q&A if people have questions. I'd love to answer them.
Hey, Katelyn, thank you so much for that. That was fantastic. Every time I listen to you, I always learn something from you. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that my voice held up through the whole presentation. So I was worried in the beginning I might lose it, but it got into a groove.
Thank you. So we have a couple of questions here. You addressed Lena's question. So Supriya asked, what do you suggest for B2B businesses other than Facebook Insights and SparkToro?
So for B2B businesses, I'd say B2B businesses, SparkToro is still a good one for B2B. Maybe not as much for Facebook audience insights. But I would say start with some of the other ones that aren't necessarily tool based, but ask your audience firstly. Do some competitive research. Where are your competitors spending their time? And so asking your audience first and foremost, and then asking, doing some competitor research to see where your audience is spending where your competitors are spending their time, because that will give you a signal as to where they're getting traction. So that can give you some good clues. There are other audience intelligence tools. Another really great audience intelligence tool is actually called Audience. It is spelt with a S instead of a C. And that one can also give you some really interesting insights. If you have a big competitor, you can put them in and it will actually analyze your competitor's audience and give you insights as to who that audience is, where they're spending their time. So that can be a good one. Ahrefs, any keyword planning tool, any search engine optimization tools are going to help you to do your keyword research. Yeah, so Audience. It's spelt with a audience with a C, so you just forgot the N there. That's the only difference, but that's a great tool, also very affordable. There's some very expensive audience intelligence tools out there. Yes, yeah, you got it. And this one is very reasonable and really cool. Thank you, Lena, for your lovely words. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, we have Alex. Does SparkToro work in Europe and Asia?
Alex, I don't know. I would go and do the search and see. Now, again, you can search by location. My assumption is that it does. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't, but I believe it does. And again, 10 free searches. So go and do one for free, and then you can put in your criteria, and then you can identify the location where those people are located. I'm glad to hear that. Supriya, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but I want to keep it simple. There's so much noise out there, right? It doesn't need to be hard. You don't need to be in all the places.
Thank you so much, Supriya. Looking forward to chatting with you this afternoon. So, thank you, everyone, for joining. Any other last-minute questions? Otherwise, we're about to end the session. Thank you so much for everyone joining. And Katelyn, all the best with the pregnancy and the baby. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining today. It's great to meet some of you for the first time.